Rashad, why you
Anyway,
didn't hit me up?
What's up, Rashad?
Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
brother, I love you, brother.
What's up, Rashad? What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.
Oh, okay. We don't have audio, so I'm going to share once again. Hold on, give me a second here. And we are going to share this. Shouts out to Lo. Shouts out my brother Holla. And yeah, let's get into it.
Journalists in the space had a stretch of ESPN out doing his own independent thing now, and he's really bringing a lot of light to some of the questions that we've had throughout NBA history. And apparently he sat down with some people who were there when Wilt Chamberlain scored the 100 points, and they have a better depiction of what actually happened during that 100-point game.
At one point, they called a foul against.
Where he was he was fouling people on defense to get more possessions to get to 100 points because he was at like 80, and he was like it was kind of like a foul bait situation at the end of the game just to get to 100 points because he was close to 100 points. I remember that. I've heard this before, but the argument we were having, Holla, was did he score 100 points in the game? And yes, after people who were there said he did, after listening to the radio call where he said 100 points, he has done it. He did, in fact, score 100 points. That was what the debate was. It wasn't how he scored the 100 points. Oh, they was intentionally fouling folks, even though they were up 20 points so they can get more possessions and get to 100. The debate was, did he do it? And the answer is yes, Holla. So there you go.
That Imhoff did not think was a foul.
And he started backing in, and I held my position, and Willie Smith called me for a foul, and I said, Willie, I'm allowed a position. And I said, why don't you give the guy 100 points, we'll all go home.
145 to 126. Darryl Imhoff fouled him. He has 83.
And the game took on, Daryl would call it a farce.
My word is a farce. It was a farce of a game. Elgin Baylor scored 60 points against us in the guard. I mean, that was a legitimate great performance, but it wasn't done the way that one was done. And that's what makes that a farce. I don't see it as one of the great games ever, and I think the 100-point game is totally out of.
And wasn't Wilt like a terrible free throw shooter? Like, didn't he like airball free throws in the finals and go like 0 for 10 from the free throw line in the finals game? Isn't that like one of the more famous Wilt Chamberlain stats? So if it's like, oh, they're just calling out bad fouls, it's better. 100 is 100, bro. If you want to stop 100, stop 100. That man did not get no 100 points against y'all from the free throw line. He got 100 on your head.
Context.
This is where I need to observe that everybody who's been trying to undermine Wilt's record by asking if it really happened has been asking the wrong question. Because what Daryl Imhoff is arguing here as one of the principles is not that the 100-point game never took place. What Daryl is arguing is that compared to other great performances, Wilt's 100 was abnormal and ultimately illegitimate to the point of being, quote, a farce.
With 7.5 minutes to play and everybody realizing now what the stakes were, the Knicks started not quite stalling, but sort of. Couple extra passes, then they start running a weave down court, taking the ball in 94 feet from the basket. The Warriors start committing fouls of the Knicks to get the ball back quicker, to get the ball to Wilt.
And cross court to Butcher as they eat up as much time as they can. Butcher to the circle and fouled by Rodgers. Warriors figured the only way to combat the New York Storm was to come out and foul the backcourt men themselves.
Nah, I can't take Wilt Chamberlain serious no more. I can't take Wilt Chamberlain serious no more. You're telling me they were purposely fouling to get the ball back in this man's hand? That's the thing that blows me away. Yeah, I saw that too, Mars, where Wilt would block his own teammates' shots. He would grab their shots out of the air and tip it in so the points would count for him. I can't take Wilt Chamberlain serious anymore. Because I will say this. When I watch Giannis play, I always kind of think to myself, I ain't gonna lie, if we didn't have video footage of Giannis, there would be a bunch of people saying that he didn't exist. Like a bunch of people. Like a lot of people would like, y'all lying. And so because of that alone, I tend to believe a little bit more of what Wilt did or didn't do. But the more and more footage and information that comes.
All right. Low before we continue. So we could look at the year where he averaged 50? That was the year he scored the 100 points, right? We could look at that year, right? Okay, that was 61-62. Let's go all the way down to where we playing quote unquote real basketball. He's well into his 30s. It's like his 12th year in the league. He still averaged a humble 20.7 points and 18.2 rebounds per game. This is the 70s. We've got the likes of, hold on, let me see. Give me a second. Hold it. We have the likes of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is in the league at this time. Legitimate basketball players and legends that we shout out among the all-time games greats. They're in the league at this time. He still averaged 20 and 20 well into his 30s. Regardless of how he scored 100 points, regardless, if we say I can't take Wilt seriously anymore, you was just looking for a reason to write off Wilt.
Out about Wilt, the more I start recognizing, you know what? Even if he put up the numbers, if they weren't impacting, what does it even fucking matter? Because I do believe, for example, if LeBron really wanted to, for a great example, he could have averaged a triple-double. So could have Jason Kidd. So could have Magic Johnson. But they decided not to because they believe that there are better ways for them to impact the game beyond just racking up a bunch of assists. I think that Kobe, MJ, James Harden, Allen Iverson, if they really wanted to, they probably could average 40. But there was other things that were at stake instead of them just putting up enough shots to get to 40 points. So when it comes to the Wilt thing, I start to recognize a lot of things that would stop people from scoring these points. Wilt just had no shame to just go out and do it, to the point in which, again, like Mars said, and I've seen it, and if somebody has the video on in chat, I'll show it on the screen. Wilt would literally block his own teammate's shot, grab the ball out of the air, and tip it in himself so it would count for 2 points for him. That is ridiculous.
They would say Wilt was a ball hog. He never passed. He never did this. And then he went out and led the league in assists next year.
And now we're learning that the 100-point game did happen, but they did things that we will all believe is stat padding.
Y'all been saying for the past 10 years, it never happened. That's all the internet has said for 10 years. It never happened. Did Wilt ever score? Where's the footage of the 100-point game? Because it didn't happen. It was like the man on the moon thing with Lance Armstrong. Like,
to get to the 100 points. And
you don't like the way he got 100 points. He scored 100 points, bro.
Even worse, the thing that really, really bothers me is that there is this belief that only players in today's game, they only care about numbers and stat padding, and that's only in today's game. When we know
no. I don't agree with that. I think people have always stat padded. People have always been, they've always known what they do now.
Back though, when David Robinson scored his 70,
so
that right there was a setup game for him to score as many points as possible. And now we're learning the same thing about Wilt Chamberlain. So this idea that they only do it in today's league, no, this is just a common thing throughout NBA history. If you don't have any shame or competitive integrity, this is what's going to happen.
And they see the Warriors fouling and the Knicks stalling, they're going to think the Knicks are ahead by 20, not the Warriors. Whether or not it became a farce is a serious question. When the structure of the game breaks down and the team that's 20 points behind is stalling, something's weird.
There's a moment, just in terms of recreating when people began to realize we're witnessing something that we'll be talking about forever. There's the moment where Bill Campbell, the play-by-play guy on the radio broadcast, says,
"What a night. Work this night down." Chamberlain on the line. Foul shot up in the air. He has 84. 146 to 126. If you know anybody not listening, call them up. Little history you're sitting in on tonight. Rebound Luckenbill. Back to Ruckwick. Into Chamberlain. He made it. The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points. That was a big difference.
For those who want to know, this is the clip right here. He's literally grabbing their shots out of the air and throwing them in himself. Like this is the most unserious shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, look at this nigga. Look at him.
Hey, yo.
Like, what are we doing? And so I always find it like so odd that like there's these like new people who exist in the space who are trying to be like purists of the sport. And this is not like me knocking them, but at some point, as you are trying to preserve history, which I think is very admirable. So I don't want to make it seem as if like what they're doing is like, oh, like these niggas is lames. But I do like question, like at some point, like, are you going to be serious about what you're watching? Like at some point, you got to be real about what you're watching. If you really did your due diligence, you did your homework, and you start seeing Wilt Chamberlain doing that, you didn't from that moment on, you didn't really start questioning what else niggas was doing at that point in time.
Have you seen Bob Cousy highlights? Y'all seen Bob Cooley, John Havlicek highlights? Folks was hooping, bro. I don't care at all. I stand on everything I say with history and everything. Wilt Chamberlain, he made moves and he did things athletically that you see LeBron James doing at 7 feet plus before the time of like science and weights and all of these things, all the technology that we have today to be doing what he did. And I'm not discounting Wilt. He bro could have been in a long jump in the Olympics. Like, he was different, dog. I'm not letting you down talk. No, for the sake of no, I know what I'm talking about. I don't care, Lo.
To figure that out. Like, niggas is talking about how many he racked up so many different blocks and how many points he scored. And then it all resulted in like mid offenses. You didn't really ask yourself, like, how is that possible? How was that possible?
Teams playing in the finals. People always talk about, oh, he didn't win. He was still in the finals every year. Just went against a team that was better. What can I say? 11 championships. What can you say about that?
How is it possible? He didn't have good enough teammates. How do you know that? If his teammates are shooting a shot and this nigga is literally tipping the ball out of the air as they're shooting the shot so he can get the ball and score 2 points, how the fuck do you know if his teams are good or not?
Man, look, bro. Hold on.
Shout out to Pablo. For those who may not,
regardless of everything that Lowe showed, all of these highlights was from the 60s. Still, modern basketball, what we consider somewhat modern basketball, bro, was still averaging over 20 points and over 20 rebounds a game. What are we talking about here, bro? Any era, anything, Wilt Chamberlain was still averaging what he was averaging, bro. And to act like, oh, that ain't, if you think it was illegitimate to the point of, dang, it's illegitimate to this, don't you think Bill Russell would have said something? Don't you think the real ones would have said something? Al Addles, God rest his soul. Do you think he would have said something? Y'all have to stop with this surface level analysis or whatever just to say, oh, the old time sucked. Every greatest player started in the 90s up to now. Like, y'all have to stop that, dude. Please stop that and respect the history of the game, bro. And this ain't no fake. I'm a new face in the space. This is stuff that I've been reading since I was 7 years old. I'm 5, 6, 7 years old reading and studying this stuff. These numbers, the greatest 75 players of all time. Slam's greatest 50 greatest players of all time. Slam 75 greatest. I'm reading this stuff consistently, bro. 5, 6, 7 years old. Watching the interviews, watching the sit downs, looking at the highlights, listening to the radio broadcast of the 100-point game. All of these things, dog. I'm not new to this. I'm true to it. I ain't just start watching basketball because it got popping on YouTube in 2020. I've been doing this, bro. So for y'all to like continue to diminish the past because it's the past or whatever and this and that, there was nothing to go off of. There was no reference. There was no, this is how you play the game with integrity. There was none of that, bro. They making the integrity as they go. They are the blueprint. That's like saying Babe Ruth and everything they did is useless because they didn't have this and they were going and they did a Babe Ruth to break the record and all. Man, come on, bro. Come on, please be so for real and be respectful, dog. Just be respectful, bro. God rest real soul. All right, here we go.
What's that supposed to mean?
Even though we just talking about displacement and everything like that, and we be going off on goons and Bill, he did align with certain beliefs and things of that sort, but whatever. That's off the court. On the court, respect Wilt Chamberlain. Respect the old people, period.
Rashad, why you
anyway.
didn't hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
Brother, I love you, brother.
What's up, Rashad? What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.